Hi everyone, me and Adam have been pondering what actually is the difference between a trail and enduro MTB.
Well, classically you'd think it's wheel size, componentry and probably the travel, but
yeah, this is the big but. Is there actually such a thing as a trail or enduro EMTB? Before we get going, do you know what? I really think that less and less EMTB brands are categorizing their bikes as trail or enduro, would you say?
well, I think from looking at mountain bikes classically, because at the end of the day, they are mountain bikes, right? Well, electric mountain bikes, you know.
They're not just mountain bikes.
But I think, you know, you've got categories like XC, trail, enduro, super enduro and downhill, and, you know, those things are still true, but is it just a mountain bike hangover?
Oh, yeah, very much a hangover. Do you know what? It's quite interesting you say that because recently I rode Stump Jumper Evo. Today it's 150 mil travel. It used to be 135 mil travel. So what used to be an enduro bike is actually today a trail bike in terms of travel. So there's a lot of migration going on in the mountain bike world.
And I think, you know, in the mountain bike world, it's quite definitive. A trail bike can be quite different to an enduro bike, but in the world of e-mountain bikes, you know, the lines are getting a lot more blurred, and I'd say that, you know, the difference between, say, a trail bike and an enduro bike may be the difference between 10 mil travel on the back and between 10 and 20 on the front. So It's not a great deal.
There's not a great deal. I mean, I think the, you know, the wheel size, the componentry, the suspension is pretty close. Like you say there, the main difference is maybe 10 mil here or there in travel, right?
Yeah, well, there's a bit more to it now.
Now, with that in mind, let's take the MTB model. Now, trail has become around about 150 and enduro, and this is very much rounding things up, around about 170 mil. So with that in mind, let me introduce you to two fantastic EMTB breeds. We've got the Canyon Spectral on, 155 rear, 160 front, and the beautiful new Strive 160, 170.
Well, now, let me stop you there. What the people really want to know is, what can one do that the other can't, right?
It's a great question. I think it's a difficult one and one that needs answering because let's face it, things such as wheel size, travel, geometry, they're so close that I think, ooh, and it could be a big one, Adam, I think because EMTBs are all about up, down, along and across, it could be down to motor, battery and gears.
Well, let me throw this back at you. Try this. How about it's down to location, terrain and rider at the end of the day, right? Comes down to how you choose to ride the bike.
No, actually, no, you can't just do that. You cannot just leave people hanging like that. I mean, no.
That's answered, right?
Yeah, it is answered, but what these guys need to know is the fine detail and the decisions they need to make when they're in the shop or buying online, what's gonna make them choose one or the other.
I mean, it's an easy thing to get wrong. The lines are blurred. We've got to find out, right?
We're gonna go through the super fine detail of the Canyon Spectral on and the Canyon Strive on as examples of maybe trail versus enduro.
Ooh.
So there you go. You could, if you wanted to, compare the Strive and Spectral as examples of trail and enduro. Like I said, if you wanted to, because Canyon do not. I really love the Spectral on. It's one of my all-time favorite bikes. It's fun. It's fast, it's got great range, and I think one of the most important things with this bike is because it's got quite a low anti-squat, it's a really lively bike to ride, and that is quite rare in the EMTB world.
And the Strive on. Now, there were 6 of us just down there gawking at this bike, because at the end of the day, aesthetics really do play a key. However, performance, you can't forget about it. This bike here is the one that won the first e-Enduro World Cup of this year. So it's proven, right?
Hold on a minute. Was that the bike or was that the rider?
Well.
Okay guys, myself and Adam are now going to go into some of the fine detail of the Strive versus the Spectral to help you make a decision of what bike to buy. Like I said, you can consider these as trail or enduro bikes if you want to. Now all I'll say is I've ridden both these bikes in incredibly challenging and technical terrain, and they're both massively capable. Okay, we're at the start wrap, Adam. Let's get things moving. First of all, with the frame material. Now, the Spectral is available in both aluminium or carbon, but I think the Strive is just a CFR model, right?
Yes, correct. This one is a CFR, as is that one.
Does frame material matter? For me, it doesn't.
No, for me, it depends, but it's going to affect your budget at the end of the day, right?
It is. Next up, wheel size, guys. Both bikes are 29, 27.5 mix. I think the tyre and wheel material combination is possibly more important than the actual diameter of the wheel myself.
Yeah, I think it plays a lot of factors, but arguably on a trail bike, full 29, you're going to roll a bit faster, it's going to keep you up to speed, and it's easier on mellower trails, you know, steeper stuff.
It is.
It's going to not be as wild.
I think Matt behind the camera might agree that steeper terrain, 27.5 in the back, you can just get your bum over the back a little bit more.
Yeah.
On the subject of tyre and rim combinations, I think that you'll find that, say, a 2.8 tyre on the back is going to make up for, remember, this is a 155 bike, this is a 160 bike. A bigger diameter tyre is actually going to give it a bit more travel. Not only that, it's going to affect the geometry of the bike, so bear that in mind when you change your tyres. Now, when it comes to wheels, Adam, I think a good aluminium wheel, perfect for enduro riding.
Yeah, to be honest, it comes down to personal preference. I think, to be honest, something that's a bit more traction, something that's got a little bit more give, a bit of aluminium is not a bad thing. But again, it's location, rider and terrain. You've got to ride to your circumstances, right?
Okay, Adam, for fork's sake, let's talk 36 mil stanchions versus 38 mil stanchion.
These girthy guys.
Does it matter? I don't think it matters in 90% of the conditions. I think it only really matters in really nasty terrain where you are proper motoring.
And again, now to stop you there, this is an enduro fork. That's what it's aimed at. It's aimed at the chunkier, bigger stuff where you're going to be throwing it down some of the biggest, gnarliest courses. So again, if you're talking about 100%, this is the 10%.
I guess, yeah, you're right there. When it comes to the sizes of the bikes, Adam, small, medium and large in both bikes. We'll come on to the geometry of both in a minute, but size does matter. It's pointless having a trail or an enduro bike if your shop or your online sales hasn't got the right size for you. So you'll see what we did there, or at least you'll see what Adam did there, swapped the bikes. So you said something about this type of track, didn't you?
For me, this is trail riding through and through. This is your perfect Spectral territory. Like, it was good, it was tight, nice corners, the back end felt like it hooked in great.
But there's only 5mm difference between the travel of the back of that bike and the back of this bike.
We're forgetting the all big encompassing geometry.
Exactly, and I think what's at play here, there's a higher bottom bracket on this bike, which means that bike can actually get you lower in the corners. I think that bike corners better than this bike in certain types of corner.
For sure, it was black and white, night and day.
You think that much?
It could be a combination of the chainstay, but the bottom bracket height definitely had a part to play in that.
Or it could be, folks, that I haven't put enough air in the shock. Adam, I wasn't going to get into this level of detail, but it feels to me the suspension design of a bike will affect the ride characteristic.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that it's noticeable differences, but like you said, on paper, maybe it's not wildly different. Yeah. There's not that much travel difference.
So and on the subject of, I was jesting with Adam that there's not enough air in the shock. Well, there might not be, but I could actually just let a fraction of air out of the shock on this to bring the bottom bracket down by maybe 5mm, and that would have the effect of getting around the corner a little bit faster. But that is just one corner on potentially 100 corners on a hill. Okay, shall we get into the deal makers or breakers with these bikes? We're talking motor, battery and gearing. Now, my Spectral on here comes with the EP8 motor from Shimano, although the new bikes come spec'd with the EP801, and I do believe there is a little bit more punch with the newer motors, but the key thing with 801 is the ability to run auto shift. I definitely believe, Adam, that auto shift is a game changer for two things, basically. I think the first one is that it will make the decision making for you in technical terrain. And the second one, it makes sure the bike is operating at the optimum cadence. So I think 801 with auto shift, it's pretty big.
All right, so Steve, you've got the Shimano bike, but let's not forget there's plenty of other motors on the market. The Strive-On all come with the Bosch motors, but this specific one here comes with the Bosch Performance CX Race Limited Edition motor. Now, they'll all do the same sort of thing. They'll all be able to get you to the top of the hill, but, you know, ultimately it depends if you're in a rush.
Feels like some kind of rush, hey, hey, so good. Or I guess if you're Fabian Burrell, the winner, let's not forget this is a Fabian Burrell race edition bike here.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's about the rider as much as the bike.
But like you said, it's not just all about the motor. There are other things that really play part in categorizing these bikes.
What should we go into next? We're going to batteries.
I reckon battery's the next one to tick off.
I want to qualify something before we do that. Is remember, you've now introduced the whole business of racing. Let's try and push racing aside a minute, because when you go into batteries, it means that whatever bike you ride, when you go to say, you know, maybe a World Cup race, you're going to need more than one battery to do that loop. Yeah. Anyhow, Spectral On either comes with a 720 watt-hour battery or a 900 watt-hour battery. That's a huge range. Remember, the weight of this bike, 21 kilos. Cool. This bike has
750 watt-hours, or the potential of
625, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
So that needs to be taken into consideration, because if you're doing a longer trail ride, you're going to need to consider changing a battery potentially on a smaller battery capacity.
And also the potential of taking the batteries out.
Yes.
Because both these bikes have removable batteries. I think, Adam, you've got a new breed of trail and enduro bikes at the minute, non-removable batteries. I mean, yeah, I could probably deal with it, but I live in a house without a garage or a driveway. Difficult for me. I like to take the battery out, put it on charge.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I think you've got to understand that maybe that part of it plays factor into a trail or enduro bike, but bikes in general, right? What are you doing, Steve?
Well, isn't the next section we're talking about gearing, and I thought everybody just stood on their SRAM gears, don't they?
They jump on it.
Oh, heck, well, I've got that wrong then.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, gearing, I think gearing is going to be pretty similar on both trail and enduro bikes. I think one subject which might be worth talking about is electronic shifting versus manual shifting, because I really, this is a personal thing now, I really like the positive click of a manual gear such as XT, XTR, SLX, you name it. I don't think that with a lot of electronic shifting, you can quite hear the click.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And I think, to be honest, if I was talking in a race circumstance, which, you know, we tend to,
you've been tended to.
I don't race that much. But
I think you're getting carried away with the Fabian Burrell Race Edition Strive.
Quite easily. Either or, they work nonetheless.
For me, it's a cable and a manual derailleur.
I'm sitting on the fence.
Ooh!
I like the aesthetic, but...
Hey, listen, one thing we've not talked about, folks, so far is what about the power? Is the power of the motors more about... Is that the game changer more than all these other things we talked about?
I think it definitely has a huge part to play. I think, for sure, the Bosch on this Strive motor here...
I like how he thinks he's taken over my bike.
The Bosch is proven to be more powerful. At the end of the day, it's a puncher motor. It's going to be something that's going to give you a lot of low-end grunt. Yeah. That being said, the Shimano won't be able to not do those things.
Exactly.
But
I mean, all things being equal, yes, maybe the Bosch over the Shimano. That is if you're in some kind of rush.
Yes.
But what gets people up power stage climbs quicker than anything else is the weight of the rider. A 60, 70, 75 kilo rider is going to get up the climbs faster than us, regardless of motor. Now, I think the geometry numbers of both the Strive and the Spectral are quite representative of enduro style and trail style bikes. I want to quickly go through the numbers on my Strive here. Remember, the fit of a bike is absolutely crucial whether you're choosing a trail bike or an enduro bike. That is, of course, if trail or enduro actually exists. Now, the Strive, we've got a 500mm reach on there, 63.5 degree head tube angle, 78 degree seat tube angle, 445 chainstay, 1304 on the wheelbase. It's quite a long bike, the Strive on. Quite different actually, or slightly different should I say, to the Spectral. Adam, what's the numbers on this bike?
So on the Spectral, we've got quite a few different numbers, but we've got things like 65.5 degree head angle.
That's 2 degrees.
2 degrees steeper.
Quite a lot.
But it's the whole picture, right?
Yeah.
So there's a 485 reach, so ever so slightly shorter. We've got a 440 chainstay, so slightly shorter chainstays.
However, you're going around those corners pretty sharpish on this bike. The bottom bracket drop.
Yeah.
25mm drop on the Strive.
And this is a 36 drop.
So it's lower to the ground. That together with the shorter chainstay,
it's going to keep that back end tucked in. It's going to really give you a lot of grip and control on those corners.
So what we're saying here is there is a characteristic geometry to trail or enduro style bikes, if you think there is trail and enduro. So they give you a different feel, don't they? That combined with, like as I mentioned earlier, the different suspension kinematic, the design of the bike, different shock tune. I do think you can go charging ever so slightly more with the bigger fork, the slacker head tube angle, and the longer wheelbase on that bike.
I don't disagree, but numbers are just numbers at the end of the day. It's down to location, terrain, and rider. At the end of the day, if you're riding tight corners and switchbacks, you're probably gonna have a bit of an easier time on the Spectral.
Kaboom!
Bam, bam, bam. But you're doing a big downhill charge, the Strive on's gonna give you a bit more stability.
A bit more. I think we need to give our audience some more conclusive feedback. Okay, I'm going to put it out there. I don't think there's really that much difference between trail and enduro. I wouldn't get hung up about the whole trail versus enduro thing. What I think is that we ask our e-bikes, whether it be the Strive or the Spectral or the Neuron, to do so many things. They're cross-country bikes, they're trail bikes, they're enduro bikes, they're all mountain bikes, they're downhill bikes, aren't they?
I'd agree with you completely, but I mean, getting back to the point, we're looking at trail versus enduro. Trail versus enduro for me, it's not even a question. So anything from 140 to a 170 mil travel, that's going to be your do-it-all bikes, right?
That is your sweet spot, folks. 140 to 170, anything in that category is a fantastic do-it-all bike. If you're going into like 120s or 200, they are quite extremes. They're extreme in terms of their geometry, and maybe they compromise the all-round nature of e-mountain biking.
They have a bit more of a specific application.
So there you go, folks. Any questions about the whole business of all-mountain, all-round, should I say, e-mountain bikes? Let me and Adam know in the comments. We're more than happy to help you choose the right bike for you. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.